Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. The new mobilized Russians are already at the front line of Ukraine. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Russian invasion force personnel in Ukraine began to be replenished by citizens of Russia who were drafted during partial mobilization. Russian occupation forces have begun recruiting personnel drafted in partial mobilization. According to the Morning Report, reinforcements arrived for units of the 1st Tank Regiment within the 2nd Guards Motor Rifle Division of the 1st Guards Tank Army. They are now deployed in the combat zone. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, no training was given to the Russian mobilized troops. It should also be noted that the Russian Federation's military and political leadership continues to support so-called self-mobilization while partial mobilization is taking place. The General Staff reports that individuals convicted of criminal offenses have joined the units fighting in Ukraine. The Russian Federation announced a partial mobilization a week ago into the ranks military formations. Only military reserve citizens will be affected by the mobilization. Information is constantly being shared on Russian media and social media. It appears that summonses are often received by men with many children, no combat experience, or multiple diseases. They are not eligible for the so-called partial mobilization. Putin addressed the Russians in video and promised that conscripts would be trained in military tactics, taking into consideration the experiences in Ukraine. This is what the Russian president calls a special military operations. Official information says that 300,000 Russian men will be mobilized in Russia. However, a news portal, Europe, was informed that Putin's partial mobilization decree allows for the calling up of 1 million people. This is stated in the decree's paragraph, which was designated for official use. Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov called the information published on a news portal a libel. The first T-62 tank was captured by the Ukrainian military from the Russian invasion troops. The tank survived relatively unharmed. Andriy Tsaplyenko, Ukrainian war correspondent, published a photo of the tank with its trophy equipment. T-62 was kept in Russia's storage until the huge equipment loss by the invaders during hostilities in Ukraine. The army of the aggressor nation recalled its old weapons after that. For the first time, the Ukrainian military captured an intact T-62 tank. First reports about the shipment of T-62M tanks and T-62MV tanks from Ukraine surfaced in May 2022. They were assigned to the Staff Reserve Battalion tactical units that had been created in preparation for deployment into Ukraine. The Soviet Army adopted the Object 165 tank in 1962 under the designation T-62A. The Ukrainian military destroyed several Russian tanks T-62 in the summer. T-62M was given to the retrofitted T-62 tank equipped with a Shechna system for guided weapons. The T-62MV designation was given to the T-62M modified T-62M tank with mounted reactive armor and without additional armor protection of the turret or hull. During the Vostok 2018 exercises in August 2018, the Russian military took at least a dozen T-62M tanks and T-62MV from Beryasia's storage facilities. T-62MV tanks could be seen on the Southern Military District's territory in 2021. During takeoff, the Russian Su-25 attack plane, which attacked Ukraine, collided with its pilot. The plane may have crashed in Milorovo in the Rostov region. Russian sources claimed that the attack plane crashed on September 11th. According to Russian sources, the Russian attack aircraft crashed on September 11th. Daniil, the pilot of Russian aerospace forces, was killed. These are Danny's keys. Yesterday, September 11th edition. His Su-25 crashed into the ground shortly after takeoff. Russian sources said that Daniil died. Recently, another Russian Su-25 attack plane was discovered in the Kharkiv region. The tail number of the Su-25SM attack plane of the Aerospace Forces of the Russian Federation is RF-95134-04 Blue. This Su-25SM was parked the Russian Kant Air Base troops. It is located in the Chui region, Kyrgyzstan. The Su-25SM is an upgraded version of the Russian Su-25 assault aircraft. Modernizing the Su-25 was necessary to meet increasing combat capabilities. A new modification included the use of an airborne radar station and an expansion in the armament composition. The new combat modes allow for the use of guided air-surface missiles from horizontal flight using software-corrected tracking. Russia has reorganized its western military district after a string of defeats in Ukraine. This was reported by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence. This decision was prompted by the crushing defeat of Russian invasion forces during the offensive on the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Defense Intelligence stated in a statement that the commander of Center Troop Group Lieutenant General Alexander Lapin and his staff will lead the effort to restore the group's stability of management. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the operational staff of Center Troop Group is now based in Luhansk and will be commanded by the Western Group. The intelligence agency stressed that the personnel decision concerning the continued service of Lieutenant General Roman Berdnikov was under consideration. Roman Berdnikov was in his new post for only 2 weeks. The Lieutenant General was named commander of the Western Military District, August 26. His predecessor, Lieutenant General Andrei Sychov, was only in office for 3 weeks. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation announced that the special operation was being carried out to regroup the troops from the Balaklia districts. According to the Russian agency, the regrouping was done to build up Donetsk forces. An operation was launched to stop and organize the transfer by the Izium-Balaklia troop group to the territory of DPR within 3 days. This rocket can be used to deliver propaganda materials and then drop them on territory temporarily occupied. According to the Russian Federation's Ministry of Defense, the special operation was designed to help regroup the troops from the Balaklia districts. According to the Russian agency, the regrouping was done in order to build up Donetsk forces. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the operation was carried out within 3 days to stop and organize the transfer of the Izium-Balaklia troop group to the territory of the DPR. According to previous reports, the armed forces of Ukraine occupied Balaklia in the Kharkiv region. This region was previously under Russian control. This was announced by President Vladimir Zelensky on September 8, and a video of a special city. Recently, Ukrainian forces also entered Kupiansk. The Security Service of Ukraine confirmed that the Russian occupation had ended in Kupiansk, Kharkiv region. Colonel General Alexander Cyrsky, commander of the ground forces, reported in Balaklia that only half of Kupiansk was now under control of Ukrainian forces. British intelligence indicates that the armed forces of Ukraine seized the Russian army from the Kharkiv region. They didn't expect an offensive. The armed forces of Ukraine continue counteroffensive operations to remove the Izium group of Russian troops from their strategic logistics centers. It will be possible to eliminate most of the enemy's positions northeastern Ukraine if the armed forces of Ukraine can cut off the logistics of Russian troops. The Security Service of Ukraine confirmed that Kupiansk, Kharkiv region, was liberated from Russian occupation. SSU presented photos of Special Group Alpha operators in Kupiansk and said that the city was and will always be Ukrainian. The SSU stated that we will liberate our land down to the last centimeter. British intelligence indicates that the armed forces of Ukraine seized the Russian army from the Kharkiv region. They didn't expect an offensive. According to reports, Ukrainian fighters from 1st Battalion, 92nd Brigade, raised the national flag above Kupiansk City Council. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to counteroffensive operations to remove the Izium group of Russian troops from their strategic logistics centers. It will be possible to eliminate most of the enemy's positions northeastern Ukraine if the armed forces of Ukraine can cut off the logistics of Russian troops. In an effort to stop the Ukrainian offensive, the invaders are now transferring reinforcements into the Kharkiv region. Russian Ministry of Defense and Kremlin propaganda materials published footage of military convoys that were allegedly headed to the Izium and Kupiansk areas. The counteroffensive was commented upon by Valery Zaluzhnyi, Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of Ukraine. It is difficult, but we are moving ahead. The general expressed gratitude to his fellow citizens for their support and continued patience. The armed forces of Ukraine launched an offensive in Kharkiv on September 6th. The Russian Bat-2 combat engineering vehicle, CEV, was captured by the Kharkiv region military of the Defense Forces of Ukraine. Telegram channels published a video of the captured engineering equipment. The footage shows that the Bat-2 CEV was in operational condition when it fell into our hands. During the Ukrainian offensive in Kharkiv region, the Russians lost their equipment. The region was liberated by the Defense Forces. Bat-2 is a combat engineering vehicle that can be used to automate engineering tasks such as laying columns, tracks, and preparing and equipping units in combat areas. Equipment includes a bulldozer and loosening and crane gear, power takeoff mechanism, and hydraulic drive. This vehicle can be used for military purposes as well as to assist civilians in times of emergency or natural disasters. The Defense Forces captured various military equipment from the enemy during the offensive in Kharkiv region.